mean? Tell us, what does it mean to have a corporate breakup?
So the corporate breakup is everything that we are already talking about. The
Yeah,
feeling that you get, the anxiety that you get, you feel like they've done something personally to you. So
yeah,
think about this. When you have a personal breakup, with with a spouse, a girlfriend, boyfriend, whoever that
yeah,
significant person is, you may have friends that come over and say, "Oh my God, I feel so bad for you.
yes,
Let's grab a glass of wine. Let me give you some ice cream." And they
yes,
hug you and they want you to work on yourself before you move on. Take some time for yourself is what they say. But
yeah.
when they break up from corporate, people are like, how's she going to make a living? She
Mm-hmm.
better move on. She better find a job. But they
Yeah.
don't realize that you're going through the same emotions that you go through in this personal breakup. So you need to heal from that.
Oh,
So they
yes.
both need healing, but a lot of people don't heal properly and they just jump into the next job. And then at one point they explode. They're like, I don't want to be here anymore
Yeah.
because they're
I
just,
remember.
jumping. Go
In
ahead.
fact, I remember when a friend of mine who was very concerned, exactly what you're saying, with me, said to me, okay, so now what? Like, what's the next plan? And I was still in the process of healing. And I said, and she was asking me, what are you doing? What do you get up to on a daily basis? I guess she wanted to know if I'm spending time looking for, another job.
Yeah.
And I said to her, at this point, I'm just meditating. I'm spending a lot of time meditating. And I could see that she was becoming impatient with me, like,
Yes.
get over this whole meditation thing. You need to find a job.
That's what I mean. I have friends who would say to me, after I started finding that I wanted to be an entrepreneur, I think they were uncomfortable. So they
Yes,
were like, "Oh, we found this job for you." And I'm like, "No,
yes,
I'm okay." Like,
yes,
let me be me. Yeah, it's just a really weird feeling. And I
yeah.
think people, their fear is they want to project that fear onto you.
Oh, absolutely.
When you're calm and you're trying to meditate through it, and
Yes,
they're like, "Get out there and find a
yes.
job."
It's like, why is she not worried?
Why is she not?
And then you rise, and then they start sending you all the jobs that you can apply to. Try this one, try this one. It's like, it's crazy. Give me a moment to just breathe and like sort myself out. Anyway, so how do you propose that one heals from this breakup?
So I like to say you go through the grief first, right? You have
Right.
to feel that, feel the pain, feel what it does to you.
Hmm.
Don't stay there too long. And I don't know how long it is for a person because everyone's different.
Right.
But when you come out of that, I like to tell people to make moves.
Hmm.
And moves is an acronym for the M part is for a mindset reset. You got
Right.
to start thinking about like meditation and some yoga breathing and exercise. Maybe you need to go to a boxing class. I don't know. Do something with that pent up energy.
Yeah.
Healthy eating, enough water, just doing things that make you feel good as a person,
Mm.
because when you feel good your mind starts to shift, you start to think clearly
Right.
about a lot of things. So I love the M part. And then always be open to a new title. I know you're stuck on, you were SVP, you're a VP, you're a COO, whatever your title was. I don't know what it was, but whatever it was, be open to a new title. Think of this, Tola. You've gone to events at your corporate job and you had to introduce yourself. You introduced yourself with the title they gave you.
Yes. Yes.
So you're not used to having your own title. So
Yes.
that's why I always say, why not be the CEO of your own life? What's higher than
Right.
that? Take
Yes.
hold of that. And then the V, oh, go ahead.
And I love that because I discussed this with some friends of mine. We were on another podcast, and I spoke about this very thing, that for me, it was so difficult to transition from my job title to
Yeah,
being what at that time I perceived as a nobody. And I'm saying at that time because I was still in that whole fog
yeah,
of
yeah,
trying
yeah.
to find myself and be like, okay, who am I? If I cannot get up in a room and introduce myself as Tolabe,
Yeah,
what, then who
exactly.
do I introduce myself? My friends laughed, and I said, it was so difficult for me to say I'm not even a housewife because I'm not married. I'm a house executive, and my voice used to catch all the time.
Yeah, oh gosh.
So,
It's
and
funny too when you hear retired people. I took a note out of their book. So when you talk to someone who's retired and they're
yeah.
not going back into corporate, you'll say, "Well, what are you going to do?" And they'll say, "Anything I want."
And
So
that
then we
is
move
being
on
the
to the
CEO of your life. That's exactly
yes,
what
be
it is.
the CEO of your life. Take
Yeah.
control of that.
Yeah.
And then the V part is value your relationships. You've
Right.
built up relationships along the way. So let's value them. Use these individuals as a mentor. And I like to say, build your own personal board of directors or advisors,
Right.
people in your life that will support you in different positions. They do different things for you because they're different people,
Right.
but use that. And the E part is evaluate your money
Right.
because your money is going to change. Everyone has a money story. For
Yes.
me, it was I grew up with humble beginnings, very humble beginnings, because my parents grew up in humble beginnings. And guess what? Their parents grew up in humble beginnings.
Yes.
So it's just legacy that's come to me. And then you have to evaluate that and realize how that affects you because you'll have to change some things to make sure you get over the hump.
Yeah.
And then the S part of it is what we've been telling you the whole time, and that is share your story.
Yeah.
There's so many people who are embarrassed. They don't want to talk about it. Because they don't want to get that judgment. They don't want to feel that. But if you don't share your story, there's no way for you to help the next person. Someone's listening right now for me to
And
tell them what to
yeah.
do in their situation. I listened for someone else. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
So do that. It's super important.
And what I love again is that you have just anchored or re-emphasized what my previous guest on the show said to me. He said, Tola, if you don't tell your story, he said the thing that you are most embarrassed or afraid to share could actually help someone out there. Someone is waiting for that story. And
Yeah.
and for me, it was mostly being embarrassed or blaming myself, which I shouldn't have, for what had happened to me. And so, because I'm feeling sorry for myself, I'm in this victim mentality.
Yeah.
Then I think people are going to judge me. Imagine you think people are going to judge you for losing your job when
Yeah.
you didn't do any. It's not like I was fired for, a misdemeanor.
Exactly. So it took a while for me to say what you had you introduced me and you said she cried for it took a while for me to tell people I cried. I didn't want them to
Yeah.
see me as being weak and oh she doesn't know what to do now. And nobody said that. They were just like, I felt the same way.
Yes.
So you
Black
shared
woman,
your
right? We all want to
yeah.
to come across as so
Especially
black woman.
if you had a if you know maybe you had a high profile position or you showed your strength through your position,
Yeah.
you're not going to want to come out of that and say, oh no, I cried, because people are like, what, we didn't know
Yeah.
you had tears.
Meanwhile, you were busy kicking ass in the boardroom.
Yeah,
I
so that's
remember
what I like that.
for me, I used to cry so much that first year that I would be like, oh God, I'm so sorry. You know that I cry all the time. And every time I cry, I say, this is the last time I'm crying.
Like seriously, I had never, and I don't know if you know much about like the insurance industry or banking industry, especially for the US, is very high profiled. It's very old white men,
Yeah.
right? So I spent a lot of time in my career just trying to get to the front of the table to say something and be that person who is bold enough to sit up and share her story or say these things.
And
So you
have a
get this kind
voice.
of a tough shell. Yeah,
Yes,
because you're
yes.
competing with them all the time.
Right.
And so when you come out of that and you start crying, you're like, I don't know what that is. It's raining.
I spent all my life training to be a kick-ass, you know.
Yeah. But that's it's just the way
Instead,
it goes. And once you feel that and people start to feel that energy from you, a lot changes. There's a lot that changes. So
right.
I appreciate you asking me that. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, I wanted you to talk a little bit about because you do mention systematic injustices, as a Black woman
Yeah.
in the corporate world. Um,
Yeah.
what do you mean by that? Do you mind talking a little bit about that as well?
Sure. Sure. So I had to think about it this way. And it wasn't until I left that I can see these things. You can see them while you're there, but you don't. you try to make some decisions,
Yes.
right? Do I'm as a single mom, do I fight all the time while I'm here and risk losing my job, not being able to take care of my family? Or do I work my way around it some kind of way and do what's right for me? But what I can say is that at one point you're doing things and you do see things around, you start to notice. So for me it was um I was in like these really good programs. I was early on in my career. I was in like future leaders and an apprentice and whatever you could name it in growth period. And
Right.
then I started seeing some of my white colleagues move quicker than me or move a little bit further than me.
Yeah.
And then it got to a point where I'm like, okay, well, now I can start seeing these things a little bit more. And for whatever reason, you notice them, but you're like, oh, maybe I just need to find something else. And
Right.
so that's what I did. I found another job, and that job it was a competitor,
Okay.
paid me 60% more
Wow.
because they looked at my background, they looked at the accomplishments that I made and assumed that I should be making this much.
Right.
And I was like, no, I was lowest paid.
Tell me, what did you learn? We're moving on now. What did
Uh-huh.
you learn from your first year as an entrepreneur? What are some of the lessons you can share with us?
So what I learned is to be patient with myself
Mm,
because I was a very high achieving person in my corporate job. So you expect those things right away because you are a high performer. And
yeah.
then you realize that you're not there yet as an entrepreneur. You're not there yet. And you have to get people to unthink what you used to do. If I spent 30 years in corporate insurance, you better believe there were people still coming to me, even though they could clearly see what I did. They
Right.
would still come to me and say, hey, I need to talk to you about this. Hey, are you interested in working at this company? And I'm like, this is what I do now. But it takes a minute for them to unthink what you did.
Yeah.
It takes a moment to shift from an employee status to becoming an entrepreneur. I could tell you, Tola, it was me sitting working on things and then I'm like, I'm done, almost waiting for someone to tell me what to do next because that's what I'm used to in corporate.
As an
Remember,
employee, yes.
yes, they tell you when to go to lunch, who your clients are, what time to come in, what time to sleep, who your friends are. They tell you all of these things. But when you're an entrepreneur, you have to figure those things out. And so you can't wait on someone to give you direction for the next step. These are steps that you have to take on your own and that's the mind shift that
Yeah,
people need to
yeah,
make.
yeah. And
Yeah.
you learn very quickly that what you put in is what you get.
Yes.
So
Yeah. Yes.
I mean, if you decide to sleep the whole day, then
Then that's it.
that's
Yeah.
that. But you have yourself to account to. So yeah, it takes a while. You are so right. I mean, to find the balance between, okay, I now work for myself. So understanding that what I put in is what I get, but also understanding that I don't have to be functioning at that high level or high pace, whatever that
Exactly.
I'm so used to, as
Yep.
when I was still working for someone else who was telling me what
Yeah.
time to come in, what time to leave, what time to take a break, and all of that.
Absolutely.
It really takes a while. And also, for me personally, I would say I don't know where I got this from. I suppose also, legacies that are being passed on from generation to generation. I just thought I was meant to work for someone else for my whole life.
Yeah. That was
How
me. Yeah.
self-limiting is that? I never, when I
Yeah.
was still comfortable in my previous jobs and earning a salary and paying my bills and all of that, I never thought I could be an entrepreneur. Like, I just thought I'm supposed to work for someone until I'm 60 and then go into retirement and cash my check.
Yeah. Yeah. And
And
I don't know about you, but I
it's tough as that as a business owner. So that shift was quite something for me. And again, something you've touched on, people still saying, try this, try that. and you having to say, okay, this is not what I want anymore. For the longest time, I
Yeah.
did try, I would send in my CV and apply for this and apply for that. And for me, I always say, I feel like God or the universe or whoever you call him, was talking to me throughout this whole time to say, this is not what we want for you anymore, because I kept
Yeah.
getting rejection after rejection. And I would say, I
Yeah.
don't understand. I have the most brilliant CV. I don't know why
That is
I'm
so
rejected.
true.
But but I guess, the message was consistent. This is not your
Yeah.
path anymore.
Yes.
You
Yes.
do
Yeah.
something else, dig deep, find the talents, I didn't even know I was creative at all until one day I
Really?
sat down and I wrote a whole blog post and I was like, look at that.
Hold on. I wrote a book. Someone said, I didn't know you were a
Oh,
writer. I said, neither did I.
yes, yes. So that's the next thing I wanted to talk to you about is your book. So can you tell us a bit
Yeah.
about that and how that came to be? That's really exciting.
Yeah, so you touched on a lot of that. It's when I remember telling someone over and over, no, I'm not an entrepreneur. I'm not disciplined enough. I said that out loud. And then, years later, now I'm an entrepreneur, he says, yeah, we've been telling you that for a long time, but you didn't want to accept that. But the
Yeah,
book came up because when I left and realized, like you said, you learned that you were creative. When I realized that I had skills that other entrepreneurs were seeking, they were paying for these things, they were
yeah,
going and taking different classes. These are things that I had learned along the way.
yeah,
I decided at that point just to put them all in one place. Like the
yeah,
steps that I took to become an entrepreneur, if I took these steps and it worked for me, then it could work for someone else. So I took them all and I put them in one area,
yeah,
and that was the book. And when I did that, I created 8 steps because I firmly believe that people can do this. You can do this on your own.
mhm,
However, if you're like me, you want an accountability partner. And that's where the coaching came in at. When I put the book out, it hit bestseller in pre-order. And then
wow,
it hit bestseller again when it printed. So that was an inkling.
yeah,
People need this. So that's when I started picking up clients. They would call and say, I want to know how I can do this. I'm transitioning out of corporate. And that was the birth of an entrepreneur coach because I could coach them through that.
yeah,
But I learned a valuable lesson after like coaching 2 people that um, they know what their skills are. We're just pulling them for them, helping them understand what they are. But the biggest thing that I am helping them with is the fear of transition.
yeah,
How do I transition into an entrepreneur mindset?
right,
How am I doing that? How did you do that? They know it's capable because they see me. They see other entrepreneurs who come out of corporate. So
yeah,
they know it's realistic. But how do I do that? And that's where the whole breakup comes through. And that's where we focus on their meditation. We focus on them. They get to see how I'm running. I still run a business when I coach with people. So they get to see me actually doing the work, not just telling them what to do.
right,
So it's one of those things, and I feel I feel strongly about making sure people are educated on how to get through that because it's a pretty tough period.
right. It is, yeah. And so is this now the corporate breakup, the part of that, your business? Is that what you do, coaching other
Yes,
people? Okay. And do you do
that is.
one-on-one coaching or do you do groups? How does that
So
work? If
there's
someone is now interested in coming
yeah,
to you and looking for that type of.
there's 3 different types. There's a membership that I have, and that's where it could be a group coaching. I flood people with all my information because I want you to have it. And you can take that. It's almost like a self-study. And then I'll come in once a month and I will coach you like a group coaching.
Right.
Right. And so then that's a membership for those. And that's through, just courses that I have, just information presentations. I give you my information.
Yeah.
And then you can do a 90-minute session with me. For those who just want a 90-minute session, I want to hear you tell me how to get through these things. We go together for 90 minutes. I get that done. And that's one-on-one.
Right.
And then for those individuals who want another step and say, I need you to become my accountability partner as
Okay.
well.
Okay.
That's when they go through an 8-week program with me and we do everything together. So
Right.
there are 3 stages, and
Okay.
that's what you can find all of that in my website.
Yeah, I was gonna, that's my next question is how do people get in touch with you? So,
Yes, it's my website
mhm.
is called thecorporatebreakup.com,
Okay.
and on all social media platforms as K Roddy, Roddy
Okay.
65.
Yeah, okay. Because I was
Yep.
going to ask you, how do you spell your last name? Because I see somewhere it's spelled with one D, and then I also see,
Yeah, I don't know why they messed that up.
yeah, I went on your Instagram. I know it's spelled Roddy. So, okay,
Yes.
that's probably the most
Yes.
correct one. Okay, this is a lot of information. I would love for us somewhere down the line to have another conversation, where you can come back and
Absolutely.
we can have another conversation, maybe pick one part of the business and you can go into detail or whichever way you'd like
That's
to do
good.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's wrap this one up. And are there any last words, anything really that you'd like to leave us with?
Just for my last words is, if you decide to do this, please understand that if you're persistent, you'll get it. And if you're consistent, you're going to keep it. And I live by those words, and I would love for people to understand that.
Yeah.
That's it.
Oh,
But I appreciate you having me on the show. You have
no,
such an infectious smile. So thank you.
that is the most beautiful thing anyone has said to me today. Made my day. And thank you so much. And thanks for being patient while we're getting connected. And we will
Thank
see you
you.
outside of this platform. Thank you so much, Katrina. And thank
Thank you.
you, everyone. I will put Katrina's contact details on the show notes if you want to get in touch with her. And love and light.
Bye. Thanks. Goodbye and good luck.